sex is hypnosis. What does that mean? Sex is hypnosis. Well, I've done another video. Maybe I did a couple of videos on hypnosis and how it helps in hypnotherapy. But so sex is hypnosis. When we talk about that, what I'm talking about that, what I mean is, first of all, our unconscious mind. Our body, yes, parts of our mind, but our body is also our unconscious mind, meaning we're doing things in our body. We have unconscious processes going on in our body. We do many things. I would say most things that we do well, walking, any kind of, movement, we're doing unconsciously. Any kind of unconscious skills, and you think maybe athletics or whatever, it's all unconscious when you do it well. Same thing with sex. If our body is our unconscious mind, when we're having sex, we want to connect to that part of us. The idea of anxiety, the idea of fight or flight. I would usually say fight, flight, or freeze is very tied to hypnosis, in that people often go into hypnosis both in like my office when I had an office, or online when I do it more formally, because there's an induction, but we also go into natural hypnosis through fight, flight, and freeze when we retreat from situations. The situation overcomes us and we go into this more primitive way of being. Flight, we sort of retreat in hypnosis. Even fight, a lot of times people are angry or aggressive or literally fight because they're in that unconscious hypnosis part. Now, hypnosis doesn't necessarily also mean relaxed and calm and whatever. No, it just means we're not conscious. So think hypnosis means unconscious as opposed to conscious. So usually there's one partner in a couple that is less connected to their body. So let's just say that person's here. So they're not as connected to their body, both emotionally, meaning they don't necessarily feel emotions in their body as much, or maybe at all, as the other partner. They also don't necessarily feel physical feelings in their body as the other partner. They might be the partner that more likely covers up their body. The other partner tends to show off their body, or be okay showing skin and whatever if they're wearing or when they're wearing clothes, if they're wearing clothes. So either way, it doesn't mean that this person who's connected to their body, who's feeling the feels in their body, is more connected to their unconscious mind. It doesn't necessarily mean that. Why? Because it's unconscious. They're both not very connected to their unconscious mind. So another thing about sex is hypnosis. Hypnosis is not sex, but sex is hypnosis. Is when we're having sex, we're also very suggestible because our defenses are down. We're literally naked, vulnerable, suggestible. That's why I always say don't have that talk. Don't really have any important talk when you're having sex or when you're naked, because you're vulnerable. We're both vulnerable to what we're saying, to what others people are saying. And I say what we're saying in that we're most suggestible to ourselves. So how we choose to phrase things is also a suggestion to ourselves. So just be aware of that. When we're in sexy time, we're suggestible to what the other person says and does. And we're also suggestible to how we're saying things and how we're being. That's why certain sexual problems. So maybe it's premature ejaculation, or maybe it's erectile dysfunction. That's an unconscious problem that's exacerbated by conscious thinking. So that's the tricky thing, where when we're having good sex, we want to, as much as possible, get out of the conscious mind and sort of relax into our unconscious body, provided you're in a safe space, obviously, with your partner. You don't want to overthink things. In fact, again, maybe you don't really want to think things very much. Just kind of like do a quick thought and then let it go, and be more in touch with your feelings in your body, in touch with their body, physically and metaphorically, and connect to them. So because we're suggestible in this vulnerable time, things come up. Now, maybe you've had sex with somebody and emotions came up, right? You're having sex and all of a sudden they start crying, or they're just sad, or they start laughing about something, or they're angry. Certain emotions just start coming up. Why is that? Could it be that they have some sort of sexual trauma? It could be, and it doesn't have to be. You generally, unless you've talked about this ahead of time, you don't know. And even if you have talked about it ahead of time and you know they have sexual trauma in their past, you still don't know, because you'd be mind reading, if that's what's happening in that situation right there. When some incongruous emotion comes up in the middle. So what do you do when it comes up? Do you then talk about that? Because Jonathan, you just said don't talk about these things. Here's what you could do. Maybe you've talked about things coming up in general in the past. So you have almost like a safe word, but a safe way of handling these things. When it comes up, trust your partner to let you know if they need to let you know. So if you're literally in the middle of it and they're just all of a sudden crying, do you just stop and go, oh, what's wrong? What's wrong? Maybe not. Maybe just continue and monitor, right? Just kind of keep going. Maybe slow down, kind of do a check-in. Are you okay? Everything right? And they might say yes. This is where having sex becomes even more powerful, because you might be helping your partner positively move through things. Now, it may not feel positive to them, or you might not think it looks positive because of what's coming up, but maybe it is. Maybe it's a release that they didn't even know that they needed. So just kind of be present with them. Don't necessarily stop. Maybe pause, maybe check in, move through it, give positive reinforcement. And this goes to another thing about being suggestible. So that's that. Another last thing I want to talk about here about hypnosis, sex is hypnosis, is positive reinforcement. So I've said this in other videos, but to shape your partner's behavior, to kind of nudge them into like doing the things you like to do. Like, I like when they do this or not this and more this. Positively reinforce them. So whatever they do, anything that you like, or even in the direction of what you like. Oh, I like when you do this. Oh, it feels so good. Oh, it turns me on when you. So kind of throw those things out there. So sex is hypnosis in a sense. Use these things, put any questions below, reach out to me if you have any more questions, and I will see you on the next video.